So we have today a wonderful guest. Um, I'll do a short introduction. So I have met this man at a number of different locations. He's always been outstanding, always has a smile on his face, and he is just one of the kindest souls. I got to hear his story a little bit. We'll talk about that later. And very heartwarming. Met him and his wife. So, without further ado, uh, Pastor Marvin Jones, welcome to Beyond Rhetoric podcast. Thank you so much for being on.
Oh man, brother Khalid, it's just a blessing to be here. I'm just so excited about talking with you today. I'm really looking forward. I was like antsy, like Christmas coming.
I feel the same way. I feel the same way. So let's kick things off. So what is your organization that you run?
Yeah, I work with a ministry called Metro Maryland Youth for Christ. It's a branch, a chapter of Youth for Christ USA. There are approximately 160 chapters in the USA, and then it's
Wow.
international. It's international, so it's 120 chapters in 120 countries. So it's a very big thing, and I do juvenile justice. That's my baby.
Wow. So in that job of you doing juvenile justice, what is your role? Are you like CEO, lead
Yeah,
pastor? What is it?
yeah. I'm what they call a director of the program. I kind of like I run the program as the Lord leads me. It doesn't give you a lot of communication or bind you in. It gives you a lot of freedom to move because I'm dealing with people that are different.
Mm,
In the juvenile justice system, there's no cookie cutter. So I can't go in there with a set program and all the time and just try to give A, B, and C. I'm dealing with personalities. So Youth for Christ gave me the opportunity to reach the downcast and the outcast. We want to reach young people where they are.
mm,
And what we do differently. See, churches can't do that because they got to be churchy. And that's
mm.
not going to reach them. We do the unchurched and reach them wherever they are. We reach them. We keep the message the same, but we use all types of methodology to meet them where they are.
You know, so I love that you just said that. I'm going to speak to some conversations that I had with some brothers and sisters as well. And we were talking about this show that we had listened to, where it was a guy who was involved with drugs, a lot of unhealthy things. He
Yeah,
was able to kick it, obviously with the help of God and a number of people in his life,
yeah,
and he eventually became a minister. And so the thing that he did when he got out of that lifestyle was he would meet some people where they were still at, still dealing with drugs, still dealing with some with prostitution, things like that. And some people were like, well, why are you going there? Why are you
yeah.
going to a place that you had such a hard time with before? He said, because I have to meet people where they're at.
That's
He
right.
said, I'm not going to see them. He said, me standing on the pew in church, the chances, are unlikely that they'll come in here. But if I go out to reach them, that's how I could change a life. And so I even hearing that story, that was the start of me deciding I need to go into these detention
Yeah,
centers. And so it even changed my trajectory and my view. So I haven't shared that before on our podcast. I think
that's good. That's good stuff.
yeah, and so it's so wonderful to meet other people that's gone down that road as well, and they're like, hey, I need to meet people where they're at, you know. So with that being said, I want to actually share like how we met. So Department of Juvenile Services, they were
Hmm.
hosting a volunteer appreciation dinner, right?
Exactly.
And we got set up at the same table. So it was beyond rhetoric, and then you and your wife, I think it was somebody else as well.
Yeah,
And we had such a ball just sitting there talking to each other. It was almost like we all knew
it
each
was
other
great.
from
It was
years
great.
ago, even though we had just met each other like 5 minutes
Yeah.
ago. Um, so when we were there, I know they asked people to get up and speak and kind of talk about their story, their organization. You got up and spoke, and I
Amen.
think there was a lot of eyes that were tearied after you got done, and your story was just amazing and outstanding.
Amen.
Um, very touching. And so, if it's okay, I just wanted to ask whatever you wanted to share, could you share your story of how you got
Yeah,
to this point with your organization?
yeah. I think it's a privilege to share it, and I think that the best thing you can do with pain is use it to help somebody else. And I found out that back in 2015, one of my sons got involved with the law and ended up getting incarcerated, and actually was charged with a homicide. And it was I couldn't believe it. This was my golden child. This was my this was my athlete. This was my college student. And I didn't see it coming. I didn't see it coming at all. And it happened right around the same time as there was the Freddie Gray riots in Maryland. And I was going down to ground zero to try to find a way to minister to Freddie Gray. And I was just crying out to the Lord. I was praying as a man of God. I was praying, Lord, please, I was praying for my little Charlie. I was like, God, you gotta have Charlie, you gotta have Charlie. And it's like God just spoke to me and said, you look out here, Freddie Gray, you look out in the Baltimore Street seats. He said, those are my Charlies. And I said, well, I never realized that I wasn't seeing people outside of my home where I should see them. I was seeing my family as my family and kind of locking it in there. But God was showing me that I had to look outside of myself and see that all these young men out there that need fathers, He wants me to get into their lives and have it with the same passion, not just do it as a ministry. If I would say, if you're doing it as a ministry, don't do it. You have to do it as a passion. You have to do it as genuine love. They need to know when I meet people in prison, you're my Charlie. That's how personal it is for me. You're my Charlie. And I couldn't keep my Charlie out of prison, but I'm still with him. But if I can just reach one, and I'm still reaching out to my Charlie, but right now I got a lot of Charlies. I got a lot of Charlies. There are a lot of Charlies, and that's where I see the downcast teenagers as something that has potential. And if you ask me one thing, I think that's really important is I don't come to them with I'm the answer to everything. I'm the
Mm.
fixer. You all messed up, and I'm this guy, and I got all this great stuff, and I'm gonna fix you. No, I come into your life story and walk with you where you are and give you bits and pieces of a better thing to create a taste for you to want more and then try to and introduce you to more. But don't lose who you are in the process. I'm not trying to change who you are, but I want you to see a better you that's in you. And that's why it's just a blessing.
Amen, man. Thank you so much for sharing that. How is, if you don't mind me asking, how is Charlie doing today?
He's struggling. He's struggling. We haven't seen him now since back in early May. Haven't been able to visit. And then last week we had a heartbreaker because we drove. He's moved to Cumberland now, and it's 140 miles one way. So we drove to Cumberland, all excited last week. Last Sunday we get to Cumberland on 3 hours, 3 hour drive. And we go in. And my son had some incidents with his health where he allergic to something and he passed out. So we didn't know what was going on. So he was in the infirmary. So we thought we were going to
Mm.
get a visit that said, "Oh, your son's in the infirmary." And she says, "Well, we just found they're going to bring him from the infirmary, get him dressed. He's going to get his visit in." So we another half an hour. Then we go to do the visit, and this is, "Oh, we just found out your son had another incident. He passed out again."
Mm.
So we end up having to leave Cumberland, drive back home, not knowing what's going on because you don't get any answers from the system, but just having to believe that it wasn't all bad. We just had to just trust God. And we came back home. We took a tour back home. My wife was, she was devastated. She was, she's so stressed about this. And I said, no, I said, I'm gonna trust God and I'm gonna believe that whatever he's going through, he's still gonna be safe. And we didn't get to visit him. So now we haven't seen him again. But he called later that evening, was very raspy and he was scared. He actually was scared. He was very scared. And I said, well, son, I'm praying for you. I'm not worried. I'm praying for you. I'm really not worried. I said, I
Mm.
can't explain it. I said, my faith, I'm really not worried. God has got you. Because he said, yeah, Dad, I woke up. One of my cellmates had to take me to the infirmary. He said, I woke up. I never knew I passed out. So I said, I'll give it to God. And I said, well, Lord, that's my son, Charlie. You take care of my son, Charlie, and I'm going to keep taking care of your Charlies out here. I can't do nothing there. So don't lock my hands on what I can't do. Lock my hands on what I can do. I can reach Charlie's on the outside.
Wow. Pastor Marvin, thank you so much. I'll definitely be praying for Charlie and hoping that he gets better and hoping that you guys get an opportunity to visit him soon because I know how being able to see family can lift up spirits.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, but man, praise the Lord for everything that you're doing and your heart behind it. And you're so right about the passion piece because if you're doing this, and to any and everybody who's listening or watching, if you're doing this, you're going to run into obstacles. And
Yes,
if you are just doing it because you're doing it for a ministry, or because you just like you want to feel good about yourself or a checkbox, the amount of obstacles you run into, it'll make you draw back really quickly and not do it at all. And
that's
so
right.
it has to be a passion. There has to be a love for these other youth that are out there, these disenfranchised children, that you want to do it for. And that'll help you get through some of those hurdles. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, I'm glad you chimed in on that because what I tell people that one thing I learned about the juvenile justice systems is whatever you plan, be prepared for it not to go forward. You
Mm,
can have all your plans in place, all your I's dotted and all your T's crossed. You go in that facility, whatever that atmosphere, and that's where you got to fit in at. You got to go in there and become part of the team and not be pushing yourself in there. Because you never know what you're going to get. You get, I mean, you walk into a situation and a teen introduces himself, and I'm coming here to teach him about honesty and integrity. And his introduction is, hey, I have two bodies on me. I said, okay. He let me know up front, I've killed two
right.
people, like to see what I'm going to say. And I said, oh, you know what? God still loves you. Hi, good to meet you today. I'm so glad to meet you.
Mhm.
Let's talk. Let's move forward now. And then we got that out the way. That's why I love you so much. I can't let you go now.
Yeah, so true. And I remember one of the moments we was in Young Fathers. So one of the programs that we do together, and that's what I want to ask next too, is the programs that you are a part of with DJS. But one of them is Young Fathers. I remember me and you being in the room when we were talking about fathers being with their young children. And I think everybody in the room had babies. Everybody was either six
Yes,
months, it was either six
yes.
months or
6 months,
younger, and
six
someone was
months or
pregnant
younger.
too. Someone had
That's
a
right.
girlfriend that was pregnant,
That's
and
right.
um, and I remember one young man responded and said, "I'm not too concerned with being around my kid now because they're a baby. I don't want to really do anything with them until they're like 4 or 5 when they can
Yes.
understand." And you remember that, right?
Yeah, I remember very
and
well.
and it and it wasn't like you went around and preached to him or anything like that. I think both me and you were kind of working off each other, because I was saying, hey,
Yeah.
the most impressionable time when they find security, when they understand your smell, your face, all
Yes.
that stuff, is when they're a baby, right? And then they
Right.
grow with that security. And I think you jumped in and added some more things about children feeling secure. And you were talking about, oh, I remember now, you were talking about if someone was coming to break into the house, and it was me and my father home versus me and my
Yes.
mother home,
Yes.
how secure.
Yes.
Do you want to go into that a little bit about what you
Yeah.
shared?
Because I tell them, I grew up in a home, a dysfunctional family. We didn't call it dysfunctional. We were just normal function.
Hmm.
But we did at times. I had a stepfather in the home, and I remember that he wasn't a man of best character, but he was a provider and a protector. So I'm very thankful for that. But I said I do remember that no matter what happened, I slept well when he was home because I knew when he was home, it wouldn't matter what if something happened outside that house, any sound, I knew I was safe because he was in that house. I knew that I did. In order to get to me, they had to go through him, and that just wasn't going to happen.
Right.
You know. And so I know if it was my mother there, I'd have been
Hmm.
terrified. I'd have been terrified because now even as a young kid, I still felt protected towards my mother. Even though she was the mother, when it's danger, I'm trying to comfort her. I could be 10 years old. Mom, don't worry. I got you. But fathers really need to be in the homes right now. Without
Mm.
the father, that there's a confidence that they're given in the youth. There's a love they're giving the youth. They feel protected. Everything is they're so important. It's critical. It's critical. It's just not an additive or addendum. It's critical. It's a critical need. And when you remove that, it can't be replaced. My mother was a great mom when we had
Hmm.
singlehood, but she couldn't do nothing for me in the father category. And I was missing those things. When I became a father, I couldn't go to my mother for anything. I didn't know where to start.
So true. I remember coming in, and I was you and a distinguished gentleman, and it was about 6 youth that was there.
Yeah, yeah,
And we went down the line, was talking about their situation, where they're at now. And then for that for that conversation, I think we started talking about fathers. And I
Yeah.
think each one of them said their father wasn't in their life for whatever reason it was, but they all had their mothers in their lives, all of them. And one of the things that I realized was how much value fathers bring into the relationships with their sons, with their children, period.
Yes.
With their
Period.
children, period. And people talk about, a mom's intuition and all that is true. But I feel when you have a mother and a father, you see the full face of God.
Yeah.
You have both of them in your life. And I remember I interviewed our executive director for Beyond Rhetoric, and he said the things that we try to do is we try to stand in the gap. And I think like the things that we're
Yes.
trying to
Yes.
do as we're working through young fathers and distinguished gentlemen, we're trying to stand in the gap as best as we can to give them as much wisdom as we can to kind of play that role as best as we can, even though we know we're not that
Yeah.
role. But yeah, it's God's work right there. So Pastor Marvin, I wanted to ask you,
Yes.
besides Young Fathers, what other programs do you do with DJS?
I do what I do normally is a Bible study outside of the fathers. I had a Bible study then, and I was doing a basketball program downtown, but COVID knocked that out. And I was, I had this old man. They loved it. They loved seeing this old man with a gold tooth playing basketball. They thought that was the greatest thing. I could do anything. I could throw the ball up. They was impressed. But I just found ways to bond with them. Anytime, anything they do, I go to the gym with them. I go to the dining hall with them. I go to the games room with them just to be around them. I told them I can never be dad, but I can be a father figure and teach you about manhood. I want to look at. I can't. I can teach you about manhood. Dads can't be replaced. My dad wasn't in my life, and he wasn't replaceable. But now I've learned from some elders. I looked out to some fathers and and people helped me. So now I want to give back. I really want to pour into people's lives because I just believe that we can make a difference. What you do, Dan? When I walked in there, I mean, after I saw you at the appreciation dinner, what are the odds that I'm going to walk into the juvenile justice system downtown, into the meeting room, and you're sitting in there? I'm like, how did this happen? It was so encouraging because up until that time, it was all alone because the program that's in place is unstructured.
Hmm.
So I'm having to kind of stay in and kind of like do a little gleaning and add a little bits and pieces, but I really can't get the program the way I want it to be. And I'm hoping that with you, I see that of like-minded that eventually we can get more input in there, and so they can see that I'm not there to downgrade them in any way, but to show them that we do have some valuable information and some resources that
Hmm.
they can use and take some stress off of them. Because right now they're
Yes.
kind of winging it. They're kind of winging it, and I'm saying this is not a time for winging. These young people, they need structure. Because if you just wing it they're not going to leave with anything. They're going to come back. They're not really taking enough. They can put into step each day. So I want to give them something that they can bring back and they can put some into their lives. And that's what I saw when I
Yes.
heard when you were talking about things you wanted to bring. I said, man, I'm excited about that. Uh, I'm excited about that.
No doubt. And so I think I've seen three different iterations of the Young Fathers program there. So I remember I started there years ago. So the way I started there was first doing a programming session. This was during COVID, and I was able to teach them
Mm-hmm.
how to build their own websites, how to make their own little
Yeah,
e-commerce,
yeah,
things like that. So helping them do coding, and
yes,
uh, and it was all through Zoom. And then that transition to where we were saying, hey, now we can come in. I like to do it face to face. And much like you was talking about, like trying to force your way in, I was trying to force my way in because I was like, hey, do I bring my own laptops? Do
yep,
you guys
yep,
provide laptops? And they were like, nah, we won't do that, but we'll get permission over here. And it would take months before I would hear back if we got
yep,
permission or whatever. And it became just a whole thing. And so I think Tia had said, I said, hey, Tia, I said, I think this whole thing with coding is taking a while to do it face to face. What else do you guys have? And she was like, oh, they like to start up a young fathers program. And I said, okay, is there one going? And she was like, no, there's not one going. And I was like, okay, interesting. So then I said, all right, and I think this is 2022.
yeah,
Um, and so I was like, okay, no problem. I said, well, is this coming from the staff or coming from the youth? Because if it's coming from the staff, but if it's coming from the youth, I'm all for it. She said it's coming from the youth. So then I come in and I said, all right, well, I'll do Saturdays. So I come in on Saturdays. They said, all right, we'll give you a unit. And so I said, okay, is this a unit full of fathers? And they go, no, 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 it's just a unit.
I
so
know.
so then I walk in and there's about 13 young men that were just playing Xbox or PlayStation, and then they're
Right.
like, "Hey, there's this guy, Mr. Khalis Hall. He's here to talk to you about being a father." And it would be like one out of the 13 was actually a father. You
That's
know,
right.
so I had done that for a little while, and then that morphed, right, because it just wasn't working right. And almost I said, "Hey, why don't I just talk about being better young men?" Right?
Yes.
Because all of them are young men, whether they're fathers or not. So then that morphed into something else, and then it switched again because they
Change
had a
the
new
director
super
there. Then. Yeah,
yeah new
superintendent. Yeah.
superintendent. They had a
Yeah,
new
new
superintendent.
superintendent.
That new superintendent was like, "Hey, I want to run the program." And we were like,
Yep.
"Oh, okay, all right, cool, man." So then I no longer was doing it on Saturdays, and then I would come in on Tuesday nights, and I would say I can only come in like once a month, right? Since it was during the weekday. So then I would come in about maybe once a month, once in the blue, and then that transition because they switched superintendents.
Yep. That's
So when
right.
he left, the program left, but then it was another couple of RAs. They were like, "Yo, we're going to carry this thing on," but it took a while for me to figure out who it was, and that's when I got caught up with them to where I am now. And then
Yeah.
I see you in there, and I'm like, "Hey, oh my goodness, this is fantastic!" And I agree with you because when we were first doing it, I would come in with a theme. Then all
Mm-hmm.
that went away. Then the
Yep.
superintendent, he had kind of a theme. Then that went away. And then the new RAs, they kind of was doing their thing, but they were just like, let's get together and talk. And they
Right.
would pick people out from the different units that they felt needed to be there, which is what I appreciated. But the thing was, much like you said, the structure. So it's more so just kind of like an ad hoc conversation. And I think if we had more theming, and that's what I hope to bring, and I know that's what
Yeah.
you're planning on bringing too.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to supporting you in that
Yeah.
whole endeavor. And so thank you so much for talking about the whole Young Fathers program. Was there anything else you wanted to make sure that you
I
express to
said,
people that's listening
uh,
about that?
yes, I want them to see what Youth for Christ. A lot of people have a misunderstanding about Youth for Christ. They think about parachurch ministries, and a lot of churches have fear when it comes to parachurch ministries. But one thing I can assure them that this parachurch ministry, as large as it is absolutely church based. In other words, we are feeding into churches. Our goal is to reach all the unchurched and feed them into churches. We're not
Hmm.
starting church. We have no intention of starting church. That's not our responsibility. We do campus life, which is in the high schools. We do the junior high schools. We the middle schools. We do the military posts. We have a brother down in Fort Meade does Fort Meade. We do teen parents. We're doing city life in Baltimore City. We do deaf teen quests, where we're doing the deaf generation. We're trying to do something in every generation to reach every young person. We've had branches that deal with the goth, the dark clothing, and we have the goth ministry. We want to find out where we can reach that no one be unreached. We want
Mm,
to reach anyone that's marginalized and feel like they don't fit in, they don't belong, that you do belong and you are important. And we create ministries to reach those groups. And I just happen to come on board with, juvenile justice for some fit for me. I never imagined working with juvenile justice because I'm disciplined. I'm a military disciplinarian, so I think I'm like a sergeant. So I was like, they're not going to listen to me, but then I go in there and I see them, and my heart just breaks, and I was like, I'm amazed that they want me to come back.
mm,
But I just found it. They just want to be loved. They just want to be loved. So I tell people that if I wish more people would get involved and do what you're doing. We especially need more blacks. We do need more people of color. I mean, when you see all the juvenile population and you see all the staff, you see us. But then
yeah,
you see the ministries and you don't see us. I'm
right.
saying, let's bring us in there because I mean, a lot of our young people they've given up already, and I'm saying, no, man, you ain't giving up on my watch.
Right.
Not on my watch. Not on my watch. I'm going to be here. Youth for Christ is 100% in. We're sold out. to reach. I mean, we are sold out for young people. We want to reach 1 million young people in 2025 for Christ. 1 million young people in the USA alone. We're going everywhere, and I love Baltimore City. They think I'm
Mm-hmm.
crazy because I love Baltimore City. I go in Park Heights. I'm going to the hood. I love the
Mm-hmm.
hood. I
Yep.
love the hood. It's like, I'm born and bred in the country, but I love the hood. I can't explain it. I just know when I go there, I feel at home.
Mm.
I feel at home when I go in Hickey School. I feel at home. I never feel threatened. I feel at home. I feel like I'm where I belong. And I think that, I think what resonates from the people is my genuineness. I share my life. I tell you, I'm a man of many stories, and I just say, wow, you don't have a father in your life? Wow, my father disowned me and never owned me up in life. And let's
Mm.
go from here. Tell me what I did. Yeah. I adopted 2 boys. One of them in prison, but guess what? I'm keep on going. I'm not giving up because I got a son in prison. No, I'm gonna help the one in prison and still help you to keep out of prison.
Amen. Amen. Well, Pastor Marvin, I wanted to kind of close out with a couple of final questions. Well, one is there any events, fundraisers, anything that you wanted to promote that your organization is doing that you wanted to get out there to the audience?
Yeah. The next main thing on our calendar is that one of the holiday times is a time of a lot of benevolence. Uh,
Mm.
the Giving Tuesday is a big day for us. So Giving Tuesday, I'll be on Facebook and I'll be putting it out there. I'll be like, hey, double, triple twos and all. Could we just, right now God is really blessing me. I mean, He's really blessing me. But the need is already the first thing that gets cut is ministries to reach
Mm.
young people. That's the first. It's like the school system. The first thing gets cut is the school budget. But I'm going to do it with or without the budget. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. But we do fundraising. We then in May we have a annual dinner of about 1,700 to 1,800 people, and they come to the dinner. And it's at Martin's West. It's huge. It's no cost to come. They have the top of the line dinner, top of the line speakers from all over the world, and it's just so we can introduce people to you for Christ. And the people that come there is just unbelievable. One at the dinner alone, you was like, wow. We Martin's West, the whole place is booked. 1,800 people from You for Christ, and you'll see
Wow.
that we're here to stay. We've been around now since 1940. We're not going nowhere. I'm
Whew.
gonna God will. I'm gonna die in You for Christ because when I stop going to juvenile justice facility, I'm gonna just do prayer. But I ain't leaving You for Christ. They're my
Amen.
youth. I can't leave my kids.
Amen. So listen, send me your Facebook handle
Yeah,
and
yeah,
anything else that you got out there with
yeah.
social media. I'll add it in the show
Amen.
notes
Okay,
so
good.
people will know all about it.
Yeah,
One of the things that we like to do when we get ready to end in the podcast is we like to ask our guests, is there any particular book that you're reading, any show that you're binging, any movie that you just last watched? It's just a question to get to know you a little
yeah.
bit better if you want to share that.
I tell you what, I'm glad you asked that question because I went to a leadership retreat 2 weeks ago. Some friends thought I needed a rest and treated me to it. And I met a speaker there, and her introduction was, hey, uh, my name is Marie Monville, and I'm the woman whose husband did the Amish schoolhouse shooting and killed all those kids. And from that point on, I was glued to my seat, and I had a chance to meet her and pray with her. And I got her book, and it says that even though her husband went into that school and shot 10 little kids, that she said there's still one light that shines. And she wrote a book called One Life Still Shines, and it's a testimony about how God took her through that.
Wow.
And and she said it just showed me that the importance of don't be afraid of your pain, don't be afraid of it. Use it. Use it to help somebody else. I'm telling you, worst thing you can do is just keep it in yourself and bury it, and it just crushes you. No, I'm going to use it for somebody else. I deal with depression. I take my depression and I help somebody under depression. I got a son in prison and I help somebody in juvenile justice. I'm going to keep using my pain.
Wow. Thank you
Wow.
so
Thank
much for
you so
sharing
much
that.
for sharing that.
And I want to add, so one of the things that I'm watching right now, I'm watching it's a kind of a documentary. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's a biographic film. I don't know how you
Oh, I
explain
love
it, but
those.
yeah. So it's about a young man named Aaron Hernandez. I don't know if you remember him.
I heard about it. Yeah.
He was a tight end that played for the New England Patriots, and so I just watched the first 3 episodes about his life. And man, you talk about someone who was going through a lot of pain and just didn't know how to channel it and kept it all inside and
Yes.
used that pain to hurt people, and then
That's right.
eventually came
That's right.
around to hurting himself, to the point of end of his life, ending his own life. And it's been really eye opening. The I'm at the point now where he's meeting a young man named Tim Tebow, and Tim Tebow invited him to church and was like, "Hey man, I could pray for you and we can work this thing out." And he's like, "I don't know if God can
Yeah.
help me." And
Yeah.
he's at that crossroads.
That's right.
Obviously,
That's
we
right.
know how it ends, but
Yeah.
one of the things is he just never leaned into saying, "You know what, I think I could just lean on God." He always leaned on his
That's
anger,
right.
and so it's something to learn from for not only
Amen.
young people but just men in general, to not stuff all that, because when we do let it out, we may not let it out the
That's
right
right.
way. Yeah.
Tim Tebow was one of our speakers about 3 years ago.
No way.
Yeah, he was our speaker. Next year, our speaker is John Harbaugh from the Ravens. Is the speaker next year. But Tim Tebow was our speaker. And also, we had a speaker that did the Lone Survivor and the movie about the Lone Survivor, where they went down to enemy territory and everybody got killed. And he was one soldier that made it out, and he was our speaker. So
Wow.
they're well renowned speakers that come in.
Oh my
You know,
goodness. So how was it, even after I just said this, so how was it with Tim Tebow in hearing him and his
powerful,
story?
so powerful. It's unbelievable. Just he's so much humility. When I met with him and talked with him and prayed with him, it was just so much humility. It's so much sincerity. And it was just good. It was just good people. It was good people. It was a blessing. It was a
Amen.
blessing.
Well, Pastor Marvin, you said the perfect words at the end. Good people and a
Amen.
blessing, because that's who
Amen.
you are. That's who you are to me. That's who you are to so many of these young men, so many of these other Charlies that are out there. Thank you so much for your story, and thank you so much for your time. I'll leave you with the last word.
See you downtown.
See you downtown. Thank you.